A philosopher just made a $2 trillion prediction about when you stop working. Nick Bostrom didn't set out to create a venture category. He set out to ask a dangerous question. What happens to human civilization when work becomes optional? His big retirement thesis, the idea that advanced automation will make traditional employment structurally unnecessary within this century, was published in academic circles as a thought experiment. But something unexpected happened. Venture capitalists started reading it not as philosophy, but as a market map. The insight most people miss is that this isn't about whether universal basic income is ethical or whether humans need purpose. It's about recognizing that if Bostrom's timeline is even half correct, the infrastructure for post-work life doesn't exist yet. An infrastructure that doesn't exist is infrastructure that needs to be built. That's a venture thesis. That's a $2 trillion category waiting for capital. What makes this shift remarkable is the timing. For the last 15 years, venture money has been obsessed with productivity, making workers faster, smarter, more efficient. The entire AI boom has been predicated on augmenting human labor. But if the underlying assumption changes, if we're not building tools to make work better, but to make work unnecessary, then every dollar in the venture stack needs to be reconsidered. That's not incremental. That's a complete reorientation. The data is subtle but unmistakable. First, there's the capital shift. Funds that spent 2022-2023 backing workplace automation platforms are now writing checks to autonomous living companies. Startups building integrated digital ecosystems for people without traditional income. We're talking about companies that manage finances, entertainment, healthcare, and social connection for a population that doesn't wake up to clock in. Second, there's the policy signal. The US government's renewed interest in universal basic income pilots, combined with major tech founders openly discussing post-work society, has moved this from fringe thinking to mainstream conversation. When Elon Musk, Sam Altman, and Mark Andreessen are all publicly musing about the need for UBI, institutional investors start paying attention. That attention becomes capital allocation. Third, there's the infrastructure gap analysis. Think about what needs to exist in a post-work world. Digital identity systems that work without employment history. Financial platforms that manage non-traditional income streams. Entertainment and education systems that need to keep billions of people engaged without the structure of work. Healthcare systems that don't tie insurance to employment. Social connection mechanisms that replace the community work provides. These are massive markets that currently exist only as fragments. The early evidence is companies like Other Life, which is building what amounts to an operating system for post-work life, a platform that integrates income, spending, health, learning, and social connection. It's not a moonshot. It's a concrete product solving a concrete problem. And it's already raised institutional capital at a $400 million valuation. The question isn't whether post-work society will arrive. The question is, what gets built first? And that answer tells us where capital will concentrate. Digital leisure infrastructure will move fastest. Netflix and gaming companies are already profitable and scaled, but the next generation of entertainment, immersive, personalized, purpose-driven, will be built specifically for people with unlimited leisure time. Expect massive investments in AI-generated entertainment, virtual worlds, and experiential platforms. These are plausible to build with current technology. Universal income infrastructure comes second. This isn't UBI policy, it's the technology stack that enables any government or private entity to manage it. Fintech platforms that can handle micro-payments, distributed ledgers, and direct digital currency. Companies building this infrastructure will position themselves as foundational layers, which means they'll attract patient capital from institutions betting on the long game. What changes slower is the existential stuff, the stuff about human meaning and purpose. That's why you won't see a lot of venture capital yet in purpose economy companies. That problem is real, but it's not a market problem yet. By the time it becomes a market problem, it'll be too late to build the infrastructure. So the smart investors are staying focused on the mechanical, unsexy layers: payments, identity, basic lifestyle infrastructure. The timeline here is crucial. Bostrom's framework suggests this unfolds over decades, but venture moves on 5 to 10-year cycles. That means the next 18 months are critical for capital positioning. The investors and founders moving now won't see returns for a while, but they'll own the infrastructure that everyone else has to build on top of. The winners are obvious: founders and early investors building the infrastructure layer for post-work life. Digital identity companies, entertainment platforms, financial systems, basic services automation. These aren't sexy, but they're foundational. The subtler winners are companies in the productivity space that successfully repositioning themselves as leisure-enabling infrastructure. A time management app becomes a life management app. A health tracker becomes a wellness optimization platform. The metaphor shifts, but the core business can survive. The losers are anyone still building with the assumption that traditional work is permanent infrastructure. HR tech startups built for employee engagement will struggle. Recruiting platforms designed around permanent career trajectories will face headwinds. Content and education built specifically for career advancement becomes a legacy product. The biggest losers might be knowledge workers who haven't thought about this transition yet. If post-work infrastructure becomes real and capital shifts toward it, there's a narrow window where optionality matters. The people positioned earliest will be fine. Everyone else is catching up. If you're a founder, you have 3 options. First, build for the infrastructure layer. It's unglamorous, but it's where capital is consolidating. Second, pivot an existing company toward post-work use cases. That requires seeing your current product differently, but it's doable and it's defensive. Third, stay focused on your current market and don't chase philosophy. That's legitimate, but know that you're betting against capital reallocation. If you're an investor, the contrarian move is actually the crowded move now. Everyone is aware of the post-work thesis. The real opportunity is in being specific about timelines and infrastructure. Which pieces move fastest? Where is the capital gap? What company could own multiple layers of the stack? If you're neither, but you're watching your industry, ask yourself one question. Does my business model assume work remains structurally necessary? If it does, you don't need to panic. You need to be aware. The shift won't happen overnight, but the capital is moving. The infrastructure is being built. And in 5 years, the conversation will feel completely different. Bostrom's big retirement thesis isn't proven. It might not happen the way he describes, but what's undeniable is that if it does, someone needs to build the infrastructure first, that someone is already in the market. Follow for more on the future of AI and business.